Good morning, Instagram. I'm going to give people a few minutes to come in if they want. How is the weather where you are? Because that fall equinox, boom. I'm in the Northern Hemisphere in Oregon, and I mean, it started to chill down. I've got my sweater on. We're definitely getting into fall and sweater weather. I'm just waiting to see if some more people come in. I hope everyone is having a beautiful weekend. And we're going to be talking about releasing judgment today. And talking about how judgment is related to fear, which I think is going to be really interesting. We don't think of judgment as being a fear response, but it is. I'll give people like one more minute and then I'm going to start. Okay. Maybe like 30 more seconds and we'll get started. And if you're waiting, feel free to give it a stretch. I'm feeling that this morning for sure. I had a fun evening last night. Had a friend sleep over and we had a dance party. It was great. But now I need to stretch. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started and people can file in. So, judgment and the power of releasing judgment. So our ego actually reacts with judgment when we're afraid of something. So the classic example of this that I feel like a lot of people on here can relate to is you're scrolling through social media and you pass by someone who has something that you would really like to have on a deep level. Maybe someone who has the life that you dream of, like maybe somebody who's traveling and you want to travel, or someone who has built $1 million business and that's like you're building a business and that's like your dream. And as you're scrolling and you pass by this person who has this life that you would really like for yourself, you feel this like pang of jealousy and judgment. This may come in the form of, I can't believe that she's like showing off her wealth like that. Or I can't believe how done up she is for this photo shoot. These kinds of things that enter your mind, right? So when that happens, the reason that you're having that jealous reaction, that judgmental reaction, is actually because you're seeing something that you would like for yourself, but on some subconscious level, you believe that it's not possible for you. You actually don't believe that you can have what you're seeing. So if you don't believe that you can have what you're seeing, then your ego sees that thing, that person, that situation as a threat, because that's something that I want, that I can never have. And so your subconscious tells your nervous system to have that response, that judging, fearful response. And you'll notice that when you get that pang of like jealousy and judgment, you'll notice in your body that it is actually an activation of your nervous system. Like maybe you're like, oh gosh, you have this kind of like angry reaction. You can feel it in your chest. If you pay attention, like you feel that like jolt. That is your nervous system sending out a mild fear response. So the beauty of this is that you can use that response, that judgy response, to actually dig in to what you are believing about reality. And I want to give another example of this because so there is the judgment, jealousy judgment sort of reaction that I just described, but there's also this other kind of judgment that comes from someone being opposite of you in a way that makes them wrong. Totally common example of this. So like, for me, I'll use a personal example. I was raised in a very conservative Republican home. And because of that, I have some triggers. I have some subconscious beliefs around Republicans. And I think a lot of us run this kind of thing, whether it's Democrats, Republicans. It can be any group that we have some fear around. And this is the thing. So I have some triggers around that. So I could be scrolling in my social media, and if I see someone like really loud and proud talking about how they're a Republican, that can actually send me immediately into judgment of that person. Like, oh, you're other, you're wrong. And so that is another time when judgment comes in. And in that case, the judgment is actually feeling that that person is unsafe, that that group of people is unsafe. You're believing on a subconscious level that this person is not safe to you. So that's another one to be really aware of. And that kind of judgment, starting to recognize and work with that kind of judgment, that judgment that comes up when someone is opposite of you and therefore wrong, that's powerful stuff. Because when you can start seeing everyone without judgment, then your inner peace shoots up really, really high. So that's another form of judgment. And we're going to talk about the difference between judgment and discernment a little bit later. But first, we're going to do an exercise around judgment. So, okay. So basically, the judgment that you have felt is a fear response. That's the basics. And so now what we want to do is we want to figure out where the first step to sort of soothe that is to figure out where in your body you're experiencing it. So you're scrolling through social media and you get that pang of jealousy. The first step is noticing it. So start noticing when you are experiencing judgment. Have the awareness to see, oh, I'm feeling judgmental right now. And pause. And you can actually do this next exercise to help you move through the judgment and use the judgment to your benefit by digging into it. So first, what I want everyone to do is hold in your mind, just take a moment to think of something, someone, a situation that you judged recently. So just kind of bring that to your mind. I'll give you a minute here to kind of think about it. And whatever the first thing that pops into your head is fine. It doesn't have to be recent. If there's another, whatever comes up, a judgment that you've had. So now what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes down. We're going to take some deep breaths. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let's do that 2 more times. And feel free to shake it out. Okay. So just continue breathing in a way that's comfortable for you at this time. And just bring to mind whatever this thing is that you judged. Just imagine it, picture it. Just hold it in your mind for a moment here, continuing to breathe. And now we're going to do a body scan. So now I want you to let go of it. Let go of that image completely. You don't need it anymore. And just follow me as we do a body scan. And what we're doing as we scan our body, we're just observing. We're not trying to change anything right now. And we're just observing where in our body we feel any tension, discomfort, even pain. But we're just observing while we do the scan. We're not trying to change it. We're just taking note of where we feel things. So let's start with our feet. Feeling into the feet, just noticing and observing what we feel there. They may feel really good. They may feel neutral. You may feel tension. Just noticing. And then moving into our ankles and just noticing what we feel there. Moving into our lower legs, our knees, up to our thighs, and again, we're just observing what we feel. And moving into our pelvis, our tailbone, our pelvic region. Moving up into our belly, and just observing. And then up into our diaphragm, our lower chest, just observing. And up into our chest, just noticing what we feel there. And our shoulders, our upper arms, our lower arms, our wrists and our hands, our palms. And moving up into our neck and our throat. And then into our lower face, our jaw, our lips, cheekbones. And up to the top of our face, our eyebrows, our forehead. And the very top of our head and our entire head, just noticing what we feel there. So now that we've noticed where we're holding some tension, we're going to take a moment to breathe some beautiful white light into that area. And what this is going to do is it's going to help relieve that tension, discomfort, pain in whatever areas you noticed it. So the way we're going to do this is I want you to inhale through the nose. And as you inhale, imagine that you are breathing in a beautiful white, glittery light. It feels amazing. And on your exhale, I want you to envision that beautiful white, glittery light moving to the areas of your body that felt tension or discomfort or pain. And it's moving to those areas to help relieve that tension. So inhale, beautiful, bright, white, glittery light. And exhale that light to the areas of your body that need it the most. And inhale, beautiful, bright, white, glittery light. And exhale to the areas that need it the most. And continue breathing like this, breathing in the white light, exhaling it to the areas that need it. And I'm going to send through some Reiki healing. And as long as you are open to receiving it, then you will receive it. I'm just going to go ahead and start sending through some energy to go with this beautiful bright white light that you're breathing in and sending to the areas that are tense. All you need to do is just continue breathing in that white light and exhaling it to the areas of your body that feel tension, that need that healing. Just keep doing the breathing, and I'm sending. Continue breathing. Okay, one last big breath, sending that white light. Okay, now you can release the visualization, but keep your eyes closed for just a moment. And just breathe and give yourself a little shake here. And shake your body. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. Okay. So now that we've located where in our body we were holding that judgment, that fear, and we've done some work to release it, to send some loving energy to it, now we can ask ourselves some questions about that judgment that we experienced. So if you have a journal, go ahead and grab that. If you're watching this on the replay, feel free to pause it and grab your journal. And the questions, basically I'm going to say the question, and the best thing that you can do is write it out and even say it out loud. And then just write whatever comes through to you in answer to the question. And so if you're watching on replay, definitely pause it after the question so that you can just write. And write anything. Like, just allow it to come through. Don't censor yourself. So there's going to be 2 questions. We'll start with the first one. So for the first question, what must I believe about myself, the world, reality, that led to this judgment? What must I believe about myself, the world, reality that led to this judgment? And go ahead and just write whatever comes up. Just write and write and write. Don't censor yourself. And if you're watching on replay, go ahead and pause and spend as much time as you would like. I'll give you just a moment here. Okay, and the second question, what other perspective could I choose here? What other perspective could I choose here? And just go ahead and write whatever comes up. And if you're watching on replay, pause and go ahead and write. What other perspective could I choose here? Now, if you're having any trouble with these questions, I'm going to give you an example. So, for instance, with my example of scrolling through social media and seeing someone and feeling that pang of jealousy. So, what would I need to believe about myself, about the world, about reality to have that reaction to this person's life? So I might say, well, I believe that sharing your success is arrogant. I might believe that successful people are mean. I might believe that money makes people mean. There's all kinds of things that could come up. So these are examples, depending on what kind of judgment you had in mind. If I was going through the example of being triggered by another group of people, feeling judgment towards another group of people, like Republicans, for instance. Maybe I believe that someone who's a Republican is dangerous to me. Maybe I believe that someone who's a Republican will be mean to me. It can be really basic like that. A lot of times our subconscious beliefs really have to do with our inner child, and our inner child being afraid of being mistreated. So these are just examples. And then the question, what other perspective could I choose here? In the case of scrolling and having that pang of jealousy, well, I could choose to see that person as what I would really like in my own life, and I could choose to see that person's success as evidence of what is possible for me. If that person can do it, why can't I? As far as the judgment, like, of another group of people, of like Republicans, another perspective that I could choose is that this person's set of experiences and life events, where they were raised, all of these things could be causing them to see the world in a different way. And the perspective I could take is that from their point of view, my way of being might feel scary. So maybe neither of our ways of being need to be scary. So things like this, these are the kinds of things that you can write out. So what I want to talk about before we wrap up, and I'm almost done here, I do want to talk about the difference between judgment and discernment, because there is a big difference, and it's kind of subtle, but really, really essential to understand the difference. So judgment is a fear response, as I've talked about. And discernment is figuring out what serves you and what doesn't serve you. So some of the differences here. Judgment feels activating because it's a fear response. Your nervous system will feel activated when you're judging. Discernment feels very calm and very clear. You won't feel that activation when you're discerning. So the judgment is that person is different and wrong and scary. Like, that's what's going on. They're wrong. And a lot of times with judgment, you'll feel a need to like point out that someone's wrong or argue with someone about their position. Whereas with discernment, you're very calmly going to look at something and say, okay, I see what this person's perspective is, and it doesn't work for me. This isn't a perspective that makes sense for me. So I'm just going to remove myself, or I'm going to place a boundary here because that perspective doesn't serve me, or this person's behavior doesn't serve me. So I'm going to put a boundary here because I only allow things into my life that serve me. So there's a real difference there. Discernment is very calm. It's very loving. It's very controlled. Whereas judgment is out of control, feels hectic, it feels intense, it feels activating. And yeah, discernment feels wise. Like when you're discerning for yourself, does this serve me or not? It feels like wisdom. Like, oh, that does not serve me. So I'm going to walk away from it. I don't need to make them wrong. I don't need to disprove their perspective. I just need to put boundaries around myself and take care of myself and stay in my own lane, basically. So that's the difference between judgment and discernment. And I feel like that's super, super important because discernment is absolutely necessary. So when I talk about releasing judgment, I don't mean that now you connect with every human being in the world and you let every perspective into your life. It's just you still want to discern what serves you and what doesn't, but you don't want to be making everyone else's perspective wrong. That's where you get into the issues. And that's where, when you do that, when you judge and you make someone wrong, you get into a cycle of fear, and it can have an actual snowball effect. So you really want to pay attention and stop judgment in its tracks when it comes up, and then work with it. Like, use that sneaky fear to figure out what you're believing about reality. That's powerful stuff. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful. Thank you so much for everyone who joined today. And I will be back next week, Sunday at 11 a.m. Topic to be decided. I will post what I'm going to be talking about throughout the week. So have a beautiful week and a beautiful Sunday.